This is the Knockout Nut, and I am doing my predictions for UFC 324. First fight of the night, we have Ty Miller versus Adam Fugit. Ty Miller, 6'2", 170, 77 and a half inch reach, 45 leg reach. He has great boxing skills, extremely quick hands, and he keeps constant pressure and stays consistent with the jab while he's pressuring because he has a very long frame, so he uses it extremely well. He has some problems keeping his hands up later on in the fight when he gets a little bit tired, but he's been training at the PI ever since he signed last season in the Contender Series. So I believe that this will be a much better version of him during his debut. Haven't seen a lot of wrestling from him, so we'll see if that becomes a factor in that first fight. And Adam Fugit, he is 6'1", 171 pounds, 77 arm reach, 41 leg reach, and honestly, he's kind of a Contender Series tester. Every single one of his opponents in the UFC has come through the Contender Series. The last two of his opponents was their debuts, Ty Miller being one of them. And his last one was Islam Dulatov, something like that. But he got the shit kicked out of him that fight. It was a right cross the chin, and he fell asleep. But that's kind of the thing about Adam Fugit. He's kind of a Contender Series tester. But you know he also is just a baseline for the talent in the UFC. So it kind of, I guess we'll see what happens, on Saturday. But for this fight, I definitely have Ty Miller myself. And up next, we have Cameron Smotherman versus Ricky Tercios. Cameron Smotherman being 5'9", 136 pounds, 69 arm reach, and 39 leg reach. He's a good counterpuncher from distance, not as great in the clinch. When the fight gets close, he tends to stall a little bit and tries to work his way back to the outside, and that can provide some problems for him. He's not very active, and he doesn't really move a lot, like in feint. He kind of just waits for his shot. He's very flat-footed. Another thing I noticed is he doesn't check leg kicks, which is not great. Obviously, the later you go in a fight, the more compromised your legs will be, and you just don't want that. On the other hand, Ricky Tercios, 5'9", 135 pounds, 71 arm reach, 38 and a half leg reach. He is an extremely explosive fighter. He loves to go at a fast pace and keep it there, which is the complete opposite of what Cameron Smotherman does when he gets into the octagon. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see the difference in the two. Ricky spreads his strikes all over. He's very economical with that. He's not really a wrestler, and he attempts takedowns. But in this fight, I do have Ricky winning. In the next fight, we have Denzel Freeman versus Josh Hokett. Denzel Freeman being 6'1", 265, 77 arm reach, 43 and a half leg reach. He's good hands and very, very mobile and quick kicks. It was very impressive to see him throw those from the few fights that I saw. Stays on the outside and tries to do his damage there. Doesn't really pressure a lot, but he doesn't really seem to have a great reaction time. Not really sure about that 100%, but from the few fights that I saw, he either got tired and just got sloppy, or, just like I said, doesn't have a great reaction time. Hokett, on the other hand, former NFL player, 6'1", 236, 73 and a half arm reach, 43 leg reach, has an insane gas tank for a heavyweight, and extremely heavy on the takedowns. Does stand up a little, but always is threatening that takedown. Pressures a lot and shoots again and again and again if he fails a takedown attempt until he gets on top. And then once he gets on top, he's either going to keep punching or he's going to try and get a submission. He goes for the finishes. And, he also seems to have some extremely fast reflexes for a big guy. Um, this fight's going to be extremely interesting to see. I'm going with Hokett personally. I think he's just going to take this one to the ground, and then once it's on the ground, like Denzel Freeman can wrestle, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to wrestle as well and as long as Josh Hokett can keep taking him down for. So that way, I'm just personally just leaning the way of Josh Hokett. Also, his cardio is almost too good. He just finished an NFL career where, you can't be out of shape. So he's definitely going to be pretty impressive. Yeah. Next fight, we have, let me see. Oh, a fight that I'm very excited about. Michael Johnson versus Alex Hernandez. What's going on here? Now we have a fight I am extremely excited about in Michael Johnson and Alexander Hernandez. Michael Johnson being 5'10", 155 pounds, 73 and a half arm reach, 41 leg reach. At 39, lightning fast hands, plenty of experience, great counterpuncher, mixes up his targets well, and sets up the right shot. Um, and, as I said, a wealth of experience in the octagon. Like, you really. You're not going to meet a guy that has more experience than really him and a few other well-named people, especially a few on this card here. But he earned it. And then Alexander Hernandez, 5'9", 155, 72 arm reach, 39 and a half leg reach, backs up mostly and circles around the outside, constantly trying to throw a big strike, and he usually throws a hammering leg kick while he's continuously moving. Just tries to slow you down. So when he does rush in there, you can't move as fast, and then he could try and catch you. Throws pretty accurate punches as a counter puncher, though. I wouldn't put it against Michael Johnson's, but it's quite impressive. He attacks the legs a lot, but as the rounds go on, he does it early, and then he gets winded, and then once he gets winded, it starts going a little bit slower and a little bit slower and a little bit slower, and then I think it's going to be a little bit problem for them. Yeah, in my mind, this one is pretty clearly Michael Johnson. I actually have him by knockout in my head because I just think his hands are too fast and accurate. So if Hernandez does rush in there, I think he's going to catch him on the chin and he's going to go sleep. And if it happens like that, it's gonna be looking pretty good. Michael Johnson just had a huge upset over Daniel Zellhuber, where he looked absolutely fantastic. He was piecing him up, top, legs, body, everything. It was just a really nice performance. And next we have Charles Johnson versus Alex Perez. Charles Johnson being a fighter that most people are not familiar with, and they should be, truthfully, because he's got a lot of really good wins on his resume. But let's start with Alex Perez. Alex Perez, number 11 ranked, 5'6", 126 pounds, 65 and a half arm length, 38 leg length. Stays on his center line and throws flurries with no defense really. Throws heavy also, so he can catch him, but mostly he just kind of throws on a outside. And if you have any sort of defense whatsoever, you let him get tired, and then it's barbecue chicken from there, as Tyler Kolek would say. Charles Johnson, number 13, 5'9", 126, 70-inch arm length, 40-inch leg length. Um, he stays measured, very active, switches up his targets a lot, and puts together really good combos, and he's extremely tough. He went 3 rounds with the current champion in their division, Van, and won by knockout. Uh, it was an extremely impressive fight. Both of them were, just really going balls to the wall. It was something else. But he's also a really good counterpuncher, and he's very fluid on the feet. He moves a lot, and he moves well. Um, this, in my opinion, is more Charles Johnson just moving up the rankings to where he more deservedly belongs. And then potentially, if Pantoja is still injured for a little while, he can fight Van as a rematch, and Van can get his get back. So, I guess we'll see what happens. All depends on what the UFC decides. But yeah, I pretty clearly have Charles Johnson winning this one. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be very close. He's got a 4.5-inch disadvantage with his arms and a 2-inch disadvantage on his legs. So if you're doing that and then bull rushing, you're going to get caught. And as long as Charles Johnson just stays measured with any half amount of defense, he'll be fine. And then another fight. Whoa, what was that? That probably doesn't need a lot to be talked about, truthfully, is this one. We got Nikita Krylov versus Modestas Bukauskas, whatever his name is. Krylov being number 13 in the light heavyweight division. He's 6'3", 205, 77 and a half arm length and 44 and a half leg length. He took 2 years off and came back in 2023 to 2025. And he lost the last 2 fights by knockout. One being by Dominic Reyes, the other one being by the Ghoul, Brian, not Brian. I think it's Guskin or something like that. He's 30, but he's bounces around a lot. Backs up and then bull rushes, but he isn't quick anymore, so he gets countered. And he's a big kicker, so as long as you protect yourself from the outside and just wait for him to do that bull rush, you'll be fine. Especially with Bukauskas, because he jumps in with a combo and pressures most of the time, so that's going to be good because Krylov will be backing up and won't be able to kick as much, especially if you're pressuring and you just keep it close. And his hands are usually tight. He doesn't really throw wild combos, and his combos are accurate, like right off the shoulder, exactly what you would want. His One of his most recent fights, he fought Kutelaba, which I had Kutelaba winning, but whatever you're gonna do, it's just the thing, it's just the fight game. But Bukauskas, obviously, for standing in the octagon with the Hulk, that's a pretty impressive thing to do. In my opinion, I have this as kind of a lamb to slaughter type situation. This is just so an actual prospect can actually enter the rankings, and Krylov, if he does win, he earns his right to stay because Bukauskas is definitely up next. But what are you gonna do? It doesn't really, it doesn't really look like that's gonna be the way that we're going. You know, it's like he has the reach advantage on both legs and his arms, but at a certain point, if you're gonna bull rush in there and try and get something, and the guy's throwing a perfect counter off the shoulder that's quick, and he clips you before you have a chance to throw, especially from the throwing feet angle. I definitely, I definitely don't see Krylov surviving most of this fight. I think this is gonna be a knockout pretty early on, or maybe, yeah, I'd give it the first half of the fight, under 1.5 rounds. Yeah, I wouldn't say that this would go much further than that. Um, you know, Also with the kicks, like I said, hopefully he doesn't get hit, but he fought Kutelaba, and Kutelaba's the Hulk, so he's definitely got a chin on him. Uh, you know, but next fight, we got Pulayev versus Gautier. Andrei Pulyev, 6'4", 185, 78.5 arm length, 41.5 leg length. Switches up his targets when he fights, which is really good. He has power, which is also not bad. Fought Christian Leroy Duncan and got absolutely pieced up by him. But he's a great fighter, so that's gonna be one that you learn from. And you know, he got taken down by Klein in his last fight, which is why he was losing the first round and had to come back in the second round. But he did some stuff to get some damage done in the first round, I believe. And then in the second round, he noticed that he injured him to the body. So when he hit him with a kick, and then when he hit him with the kick, he saw that he was hurting. So he threw a bunch of pillow punches to his head. So he put his hands up, and then he threw another kick to the body, and it was over from there. He's got great fight IQ. It was an impressive fight, but the thing is, the guy that he's fighting is even more impressive. This is, I he's even hard to describe. He's a man who's fighting in the middleweight division that has the frame of a light heavyweight, quick hands of a featherweight, and the power of a heavyweight. It's insane. He's patient, he's smart, waits, starts sending shots, and then he finds a little opening, and he knows how to he puts the lid on the coffin. It's something. He's not much in the way of a wrestler, but I'm sure he's working on that behind the scenes. It's really yet to be tested. He's really just he's done his damage on the feet, and it's been pretty quick. His hand quickness and his reaction time are extremely impressive. And even if you throw a kick, throw a strike, he's more than likely going to catch you with something that will be more punishing than anything you would have thrown his way. He is such an impressive human being. Yeah, he's 6'4", 186. I don't think I said this, but he's got like an 81 arm reach. He's gonna destroy him. And then another fight where a guy's gonna get destroyed is Umar versus Davison Figueiredo. Figueiredo being the number 6 fighter, 5'5", 136, got 68 arm length, 38 leg length. At this age, he tries to wrestle a lot and stays on the outside with leg kicks. If you're sleeping, he'll bull rush you and he'll throw a heavy punch. He can catch you, and it is not a weak punch, But short of that, I don't think that Umar would have a problem wrestling or out wrestling Davison Figueiredo. Yeah, Umar's number 2 guy. You got he's 5'8", 136, 69 arm length, 39 leg length. Follows the build as the rest of those guys. Insane cardio and all of the takedowns that the other guys have. Once he gets a hold of you, it's hard to get him off, just as it is the rest of those other guys. He's definitely a decent striker, I believe. He's not as good as Islam, but they have definitely made their way in striking over there in Dagestan, and he's not Khabib. Khabib was not the best striker. He is, he's got hands, he's got feet. He's got the same playbook as the rest of them do. But this one isn't really. You didn't really have to research this. This is kind of very clearly leading towards Umar. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, that's funny. Next, we got another very interesting fight. We have Arnold Allen versus Gene Silva. Gene Silva being the number 10 in the featherweight division. He is 5'7", 145 and a half, 69 arm length, through 36 and a half leg length. He really is just such a creative striker. It is. It's going to be something to see. He can attack you from every angle. Just like his fight against Diego Lopez, in the beginning of the fight, he kept reaching both his arms out to get test his distance, and then he threw like a teat kick to try and catch him on the chin, while both of the hands were up. It was absolutely insane. He throws fucking everything from every direction. Backwards elbows, knees, fucking like tomahawk elbows. He throws those teeth, jaw kicks. He'll try and submit you on the feet. Um, but the worst part about it is how much he laughs, and then he looks at you and he has like a great time, and then you're like you laugh for 2 seconds, and then he hits you twice, and then you're on the floor. It's absolutely insane. In the last fight, he definitely got a little sloppy with his defense, and he got a little carried away, especially in the first round. He got taken down, and then he got softened up because he kept throwing those 12 to 6 elbows. And then in the second round, he got cocky, and then when he got cocky, he rushed, and then Diego Lopez hit him with the same thing he was throwing at him, and it was punishing. Arnold Allen on the other hand, number 6 fighter in that division, 5'8", 145, 70 arm length, 39 leg length. Moves forward aggressively and uses like a jab hook that kind of leaves him open. Hands are extremely fast. And he has power, but he keeps him low, so his defense kind of lacks. I think that was a big problem in his Max Holloway fight. Because obviously Max Holloway pieced up that division minus Volkanovski. Um, but you know, I gotta lead Gene Silva this fight. He's just I think he's just too creative and too good of a striker for you know for another setback, especially after Diego Lopez. Like he was fighting pretty well against the number one ranked guy who went toe to toe with Volkanovski. He just got softened up with 12 to 6 elbows, and then he threw that 360. Once he threw the 360, it was game over. There's really not a lot you could do there. Other than wish the guy well on his next fight, which he did not do. He started crying like a little baby, which I wasn't a very big fan of. But I understand, like you're very competitive. You lost, not something you're used to, and not the outcome you wanted. So you got to respect the competitiveness, but you know sometimes, I enjoy the showmanship, and I've been a fan of him since he fought it was a kickboxer with the B name and the what was it? I forgot what it was, but they kept joking around and laughing and high fiving, and the guy high fived him and then got hit with, I think it was a left hook, and he fell to the floor, and they both looked at the referee like, what do I do next? And the guy on the ground got hit so hard, I don't even think he knew what was coming, but I sure as shit know that the next time he was fighting, he wasn't joking around like that. But we'll see what happens. I don't, I just think the diversity of the strikes are going to be too much for Arnold Allen. That's just my personal opinion. Well, we'll see what happens though. Next fight is Natalia Silva versus Rose Namajunas. Uh, she's very pretty. Natalia Silva, very pretty. I don't know why I did that. Okay. Let's do Rose. Okay, number 6, 5'5", 126 pounds, 65 arm length, 39 and a half leg reach. She has a long base, an extremely long base for, almost 40-inch legs. Uh, she's bigger than Davison Figueroa. Just has a little bit of a reach disadvantage. Yeah, 3 inches of reach. Wow, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, but she has a very large base, which allows her to throw from distance, and she can switch stance well. She's really, really, really strong footwork. She moves a little back and forth, but mostly stays on the forward pressure, and she kind of just feints a little bit and just keeps moving forward, waits her time. Not super heavy on kicks, but she uses them very smartly. If she has a chance to throw one, she'll throw one, and she'll try and make it as punishing as possible. If not, she'll try and keep moving herself and try and get in a very good position. Um, she's a very good counterpuncher. She'll try and catch you that way. It was very impressive. She's done a lot of that in her career, and a very impressive career nonetheless. But she definitely has a tough opponent in front of her, Natalia Silva. Um, she's got a Natalia Silva, the number 2 fighter. 5'4", 126 pounds, 65-inch arm length, and 36-inch leg length. She consistently feints these leg kicks, and she has bats for legs too. But she has a karate background, so she just keeps throwing it consistently, and just keeps trying to get you to pause a little bit. That's all she needs. It's just a little bit of room. She tries to make it very hard for you to find a rhythm, because as long as you're thinking about what's coming your way, you're not thinking about what you're sending her way. Um, she inches forward a little bit, then backs up, then inches forward, then backs up. She tries to get you to fall into her sweet spot, which is pretty crazy. She's a 92% takedown defense, which is extremely strong. And she's got great reaction time. Her fight IQ is definitely up there, and her shot selection is extremely impressive. And if she wins this fight, it's on to Valentina Shevchenko, which is an extremely impressive matchup. So we shall see what happens. Um, yeah, personally, I'm gonna have to go with Silva on this one. I just think that I think she's too smart. Not too smart for Rose. Rose is an extremely smart fighter, but just like her game plan itself, like when she was fighting Grasso last time, she just kept she she kept the pressure on in the beginning, and when she knew that she had it, she kept doing, like, she kept backing up, and you could say what you want about it, but they get paid to win. So she kept circling, and Alexa just kept walking, and she would walk and try and find her, but she couldn't. She would throw a kick, and then she would just keep circling and throw a kick and keep circling. And if she like tried to run in there, she'd throw a few punches, just keep her, at bay. And it was just an extremely smart system. And it got her the win. It got her bumped up in the rankings, and it got her looking at, Shevchenko. So we'll see what happens. And then, honestly, my favorite fight of the night, but the most confusing fight of the night, aside from the next one, honestly, in my opinion, because both of those two fights are very confusing. You get Derek Lewis versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. Derek Lewis, number 8, 6'3", 261, 79-inch arm length, 43 and a half leg reach length. The knockout king in the UFC, hands of concrete. All he needs to do is make contact with 25% of his punch, maybe even 15, and you'll go to sleep. You saw that in the Taliesin Textera fight. Um, he opens up his fights extremely creatively too. Like 2 fights ago, he opened up with a flying knee. Um, Against Taliesin, I don't believe he did anything crazy. I think he stayed measured, and he got hit with the first strike, and then Taliesin started advancing, and he threw that crazy left arm bomb, and he just got him right on the chin, and that was all he needed. But he also starts out the fight sometimes with like this jumping leg kick. It's pretty crazy, but we'll see what happens. Derek Lewis will wrestle if the opportunity presents itself. The guy is not going to run out there and start spamming takedowns like Josh Hokett would do. He's going to stand there and throw hands and maybe go into the clinch, throw a few knees. If he sees the trip, he'll go for it and then see what he could do damage wise. Um, you know, he can fight into the third round and get his knockout there. The only thing is the fight that gets to the third round is a little sloppy sometimes, and he definitely has his moments that are good, and he definitely has his moments that are not so good. So, you know, it's you know, we'll see what happens. Sometimes he gets a little gassed and lets his hands down. And against Cortez Acosta with his power, I wouldn't do that. But like yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And Waldo Cortez Acosta, the number 5 fighter in the heavyweight division, 6'4", 265, 78 arm length, 43 and a half leg length. Very fast hands, head movement, extremely fast, on point. He's got great shot registering, pretty accurate when backing up and countering. Definitely has attributes to compete with Derek, and deliver a knockout for himself. But he has fought 5 times in 2025, and the last one being 2 months ago, basically, from like the time that he will be fighting on Saturday. So we'll see what happens. I don't really see him coming out on top with that, but who knows? Yeah, in this fight, I do have Derek Lewis. I just think that his reputation in the UFC is almost too much and too good. Like, he stood in there with the best of the best, and Cortez Acosta, he has some good wins on his resume, but you know when it comes to the octagon time and you know having like a good chin. Derek Lewis, I believe, has 24 knockouts, and he's been knocked out 7 times. So he has a 3-to-1 knockout ratio. I would take that any day of the week. It's I truly do hope he wins also because I want to hear his fucking press conference after this because he's getting super pissed off with everyone calling him an underdog, even though he shouldn't be. Like, the guy fought Francis Ngannou. Granted, it was one of the worst fights I think in UFC history, they say, but he did fight him. Like, they showed up. He might have taken a punch or two. I think there was only like 30 strikes thrown towards the end of the fight, but you know what are you gonna do there? Like, you can't take it back now. But yeah, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Everyone has they have Derek Lewis at a 250 underdog, which I think is crazy. Sorry, I got a call. I had to accept it, so I accepted it, and then I came back. Now I'm talking about this again. I was trying to hope to time it up with me changing. Yes, I did. Perfect. Okay. Now we have Song Yadong versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. I'll talk about Sugar Sean first. All right, Sugar Sean, 5'11", number 3 ranked in the bantamweight division, tallest in the bantam division. 135, 72 arm reach, 40-inch leg reach. Is a long fighter, so he attacks from range. More of a striker. Wrestling needs improvement, definitely. He did take down Peter Yan, which is pretty impressive, but it was like kind of a leg trip that Peter Yan majored in college, and then Peter Yan started fucking him up with it because he did it. But it was still, nevertheless, still impressive that he took him down. Um, you know, he switches stances constantly, which is really good. Create angles, and then with angles comes different strikes. Different strikes for a long striker is always a home run. That's kind of what you want. Um, he's also got fast hands, and with those fast hands, as long as he's still moving and he's moving smart and is trying to stay off a center line and creating angles to try and get in between Song and his defense, it's definitely gonna be impressive to watch. He definitely gets caught flat-footed sometimes and definitely sloppy. Like, a lot of people play the Sugar Sean clip of him wobbling, quote unquote, Peter Yan when he hit him, and then Peter Yan moved back, and then he kept moving forward, and then Peter Yan runs out a little bit, and then the clip cuts off. But the clip should have kept rolling because it would have then shown them two like kind of grabbing hands in a way, and then Peter Yan coming over the top with an insane right hand that's then stunned Sugar Sean. He Peter Yan won that fight. Peter Yan just put himself in a bad position because he need Aljamain Sterling in the head. Then he lost. Then he fought Sugar Sean, and Sugar Sean was coming up, and he was getting talked about as the next guy. He was 18-1 at that time, so it was a very impressive feat. And then obviously he lost the last 2 fights against Marab, which I think for a guy like him who in his mind didn't lose a fight up until that first Marab fight, I think he's going to be a little bit of a different fighter. I don't know if he's going to be as confident, as strong, as decisive with all of his movements as he used to be. He never used to second guess himself. He used to just do things. He might start second guessing himself, and I don't know if that's going to line up as well as he might, as people might believe, and as he might believe also. He he doesn't constantly pressure. He kind of stays back in his range. He doesn't mix up shots a lot. He goes straight for the head. That's mainly his target. He might throw a body shot or two. Um, but he does throw a lot of feints, just not a lot of volume. So, we'll see what happens. Uh, yeah, I just find it funny because Umar is number two, Sugar Sean's number three, and Sugar Sean lost to the champ. Well, lost to the number one, who was the champ at that time. But Marab beat Umar also, but he beat him. Honestly, I don't know which Umar fight was more impressive for Marab. Um, and that was right after Sean fought him. Yeah, but Song Yadong, number five fighter, 5'8", 136, 67 arm reach. So he's got a 5-inch disadvantage there, which is not great. 38 leg reach, which is okay. He makes up a little bit of ground there. It would be a lot worse if his legs were not longer, because then that would be tough. He would have a really hard time getting in the pocket. He lets his hands drop sometimes, and then he gets popped, which is definitely not great. The only thing is, though, is he has a freaking iron chin. It's kind of strong as fuck. He's got fast reactions and very short, strong counters. He throws from the shoulder. Like, that is it. It is just a hip turn. That is his punch. And it is so freaking strong, lightning fast. It is, he's an insanely good counter puncher. He hammers leg kicks, and he's good about checking kicks that come his way. He continuously moves forward. He's got extremely great takedown defense. He fought, no, he's trained at Uriah Faber's gym since coming to the United States. So no matter whether or not wrestling was a part of the fight that he was doing, he has still been practicing a lot of wrestling. And in my opinion, he was beating Corey Sandhagen, which is a very comparable fighter to Sean O'Malley, because Sandhagen is a little bit smaller but smarter overall. O'Malley is longer, and we'll see how he fights and how he diversifies his attacks. But if he fights the same conventional way he always does, I don't see him beating Song Yadong. Song Yadong has fought bigger, has fought longer strikers, and he just keeps a very high guard. He walks it down, and then whenever you make a mistake is when he keeps moving. Also, people have talked about it like Sugar Sean is gonna take the cake and then fight Peter. Song Yadong also fought Peter and lost. Like, that would be a rematch also that no one talks about. And on the flip side too, Sean O'Malley's legs are a weak point. So if he can get those leg kicks that Cheeto was getting, and he starts compromising Sean's movement, I just personally, I think Sean's a great fighter. I have a lot of respect for him. I just don't think he's as great of a fighter as people expected him to be on his uprise. The thing about fighters like him in this day and age is, when McGregor was around and guys like that, and Gaethje was coming up, Poirier, Holloway, like, you could have that stand-up game being your only thing and have a very good reign as a champion. Anderson Silva is a very good example of that. But as the company and the sport has evolved, they have now looked for fighters that do everything, that are better in different places. They look for matchups that are, pretty, like, stylistically against each other, because they want to see how those guys fare against a different style of fighter, a different guy that game plans a different way, and how you can adapt to that. And the thing is, I think Song Yadong can adapt to his situations extremely well. I don't know if Sean O'Malley has that adaptability, because with Merab, what you do is he should have been throwing a lot of leg kicks, staying extremely measured in back, a lot of knees. Also, you gotta throw volume. He also should have pressured, which he didn't do at all. He was backing up. So if you're not pressuring a guy that's going to wrestle you, you're going to get taken down every single time because you're on your back foot, and you're putting them in their prime position that they want to be for that situation. So, And with the Sugar Sean fighting Peter Yan thing coming back, like top of his division is just too good. Like you got Umar, Khabib's cousin, who's fighting in the prelims somehow, but he's an extremely good fighter that deserves a shot. He fought Marab, didn't fight him great, but if him and Marab fight again, and we'll see what happens. It would probably be Peter Yan versus Marab next, not Sean. But I still got Song winning this one. I just yeah. And then the fight of the night. I was excited for Kayla Harris and Amanda Nunes. That would have been something. All right, Justin the Highlight Gaethje versus Patty the Batty Pimblett. Gaethje, number 4 fighter in the lightweight interim title bout. Yeah, there we go. I was like, what? 5'11", 156, 70 arm length reach, 40 leg length reach. Gaethje moves constantly, extremely powerful punches, and continuously beats up your legs with that front kick. He's got an iron chin. And also, if you watch that Khabib fight again, Khabib said that the hardest he ever got hit in his life was Justin Gaethje, and you could see it. In the second round, Justin Gaethje hit him with 2 strikes, and he said, "Holy fucking shit," and he took him right to the mat. It was insane, and he sat there for 30 seconds, and I think he looked up, and he was like, whoa. Like, wow, that was something. He's insanely accurate in the scrum. It doesn't shy away from it either. Like he said with the Holloway fight, what am I going to do? I'm down basically 5 rounds. I got 10 seconds left. Why would I not try and knock the guy out? And he went for it. And it was the most spectacular knockout in history. It was just, he was on the other side of it. But then he comes back. He's fought Poirier, Holloway, Khabib. Fiziev is not a bad fighter. Is a very good fighter stylistically to match up against Justin Gaethje, and they've had some pretty interesting fights. Oliveira, he's fought Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson. He ended Tony Ferguson's career basically. Michael Johnson was his first fight in his career, and he was getting pieced up, and then came back and somehow won by knockout. I watched it. It was absolutely insane how impressive that knockout was. And it was his first fight in the UFC. That's just what the guy does. He never gives up on himself. He is an extremely interesting fighter to watch. He's your fighter's favorite fighter, and that's for a reason. And then, Patty Pimblett, number 5, 5'10", 156, 73 arm length reach, which, he's got Gaethje a little bit, but 40 leg length reach. Patty, on the other hand, pretty flat-footed, doesn't really move around a lot. He bounces, and then he gets set, and then he waits for his time, he inches. Stays measured with kicks. Doesn't switch stances, and he counters from the hip. Keeps his hands really low. So when he throws, if you throw on a shorter, if you have a shorter swing path than Patty Pimblett, and you have a quick punch, and you could catch him, he's. So, okay, I'll wait. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait to say that stuff. He has a great ground game. He inflicts most of his damage there, but he's not like a takedown guy. He's not shooting double legs, single legs in the octagon. It's like if he gets taken down, he'll flip position, take advantage of it. If it's on the fence, he'll try and jump a ghillie. Then he'll bring you down. Then he'll start, doing whatever he could do, try and reverse position. If he's on the fence the other way, try and drag you down. He'll do something like that. But he's not really shooting double legs and stuff. And like I said, Justin Gaethje ended Tony Ferguson's career. And then he had, I believe it was an 11-fight losing streak, maybe 12, 13. But Patty Pimblett was one of those fights. And Patty Pimblett was his second to last fight, I believe, in the UFC, or his last fight in the UFC. Second to last. It was the second to last fight in the UFC. And Patty was looking good for a round. and then got tired. And he didn't finish Tony Ferguson. Like, I mean, the guy got finished in almost every single one of his fights. Like, he was not looking good. He looks much better now doing the boxing that he did, when he was fighting on the tail end of his career in the UFC. But, like, he was talking so much shit, just like he is now. Like, when I finish Ferguson, I'm gonna walk up to fucking Goggins and be like, "Who's gonna carry the boat now, eh?" Like, he was talking all that fucking stuff, and then he didn't finish them. Like, he rode it was actually. He had maybe 2 rounds. He lasted maybe a round and a half, and then he started getting super tired towards the end of the second round. Had a little bit of gas in the third, and then had nothing, and then just took him down for like the last minute and a half. And Tony Ferguson was just trying to do whatever he could to try and come back a little bit. But, every single one of his opponents, like, the average age is like 38. Like, Paddy Pimblett has been fighting in the UFC since he was like 24, 25. And he's 30, 31 now. And hasn't fought a guy that's anywhere near his age in their prime and on, like, the up and up. The only person he talks about fighting is a guy that's older than him. He's never mentioned fighting Arman. The only guy he mentioned fighting was Ilya. And I understand that, like, like, that's the champion, so you got to talk shit to the champ so that you get a shot. But, like, that's the only fighter near his age that he talked crap to. This fight's extremely rough. I don't exactly know. Like, with Paddy, in a parlay with the UFC machine, and like I said, the Ilya and his beef, that they already have the marketability with it. I think in a parlay I would take that. But as a straight bet, I would 150% take Justin Gaethje by knockout, just because Michael Chandler can throw a hand, yeah, but Michael Chandler was sitting on the sidelines for fucking 2.5, 3 years, and 2.5, 3 years waiting for Conor McGregor, and didn't fight, and then finally came back, fought Oliveira, and then Paddy Pimblett. Like, it was okay, but that wasn't an impressive win, and he was looking tired towards the end of that fight too. I don't know, like, he doesn't really have 5 rounds in him because he gets super fat, and then he tries to lose all the weight, and then when he cutting all that weight that's too much. You can't be doing that. Like, he was like, I think he was like, what did he say to Sean Strickland? He was like 210 or something, or 200 pounds. And they're fighting at 155. Like, imagine cutting 50 pounds in 6 months. Along, not even cutting, like, going underneath the weight you're supposed to be severely dehydrated, malnourished, everything. And then you have to put on some, you eat one night or 2 nights, and then you go fight. That's what he's doing. And honestly, I think that's why he's taking the opponents he's taken. That actually makes a lot of sense because, he's a big boy and he wants to get big, but he can't get big and then fight if he were to fight like a 28-year-old, lightweight that had just as good as a start in the UFC as he did, that guy would come in, and I'm sure if Paddy did the same thing that he did most times, he would come in and he would wipe the floor with him. It's just how it goes. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of Paddy Pimblett personally. I don't think that he's deserved his shot. He's gotten kind of ushered through the rankings, and if Ilya didn't take off, he probably would have had to fight Arman, and if he fought Arman would have fucking pieced him the fuck up. Yeah, but yeah. So parlay, I would take Paddy Pimblett, but my heart always believes in Gaethje, and I hope that does come true. Yeah, so those are my predictions for UFC 324. My disclaimer would be that I am not the one in the octagon getting punched, choked, kicked, any of that stuff. I haven't gone through camp. I haven't been rolling through injuries and stuff and haven't been telling people. So if the fights don't work out the way that I have said that they might going to, oops. I don't give a fuck. It's called a prediction for a reason. It's not, set in stone. But I put my best foot forward. So hopefully hopefully this card goes well, and we'll see what happens. I I hope I hope I hope this works. I hope. I also hope that Patty gets the shit kicked out of him personally. I would lose a parlay if Patty didn't win a belt, and I'd be happy. It wouldn't bother me at all. Just cause, yeah. And Justin Gaethje deserves it because he's a fucking animal. Oh, and true, he did win his last interim title after fighting Fiziev after losing by a submission or a knockout. So this would be the second time in a row that he lost, fought Fiziev and won, and then won an interim title. So let's see if he can. He'll be the first ever back-to-back, two-time interim title holder.